منطقة حاصرة.
After an American tanker caught fire in the northern part of the Persian Gulf in Iraqi waters following an Iranian missile strike, combat alert was raised on the American aircraft carriers operating in the region. The response was immediate. Vertical launch cells opened on the escort ships, and Tomahawk cruise missiles began firing at Iranian targets, one after another, streaking off the decks and arcing toward the horizon. Across the carrier and its escort vessels, soldiers and sailors started moving to their defensive positions along the entire perimeter of the ships. Weapons lockers were opened, equipment distributed, stations manned. Snipers set up their rifles on elevated platforms along the superstructure. On the lower deck of the carrier, Marines assembled and received a quick briefing. They were being sent to Allied bases in the Middle East and needed to be ready to move fast. Officers ran through the mission: transport method, destination, actions on arrival. The briefing lasted minutes. Topside, gun crews loaded ammunition belts into the ship-mounted machine guns positioned along the rails. The belts were fed through the receivers, charging handles pulled back, weapons made hot. Soldiers carrying shoulder-fired anti-aircraft missile systems climbed to the upper decks and took their positions, covering the sky from every angle. The entire horizon was under observation. Binoculars sweeping left to right, sniper scopes tracking anything that moved on the water or in the air. Once the machine guns were loaded and locked, the gunners ran test bursts. Short controlled fires into clear water to confirm the weapons were cycling properly, feeding correctly, and ready to defend the carrier against an aerial attack. Brass casings rattled across the deck plates. The guns worked. Every weapon on every ship in the formation was confirmed operational. The entire strike group was now at full combat readiness. Below the flight deck, mechanics had been preparing the fighter aircraft. Missiles were mounted on the pylons, fuel tanks topped off, avionics tested, control surfaces checked. After a full inspection, the first aircraft rolled out, an AV-8B Harrier II. The pilot taxied to the runway, increased engine power, and took off horizontally from the deck, transitioning to level flight and rapidly gaining altitude. Behind the Harrier, A-18 Super Hornets began rolling onto the flight deck one after another. Each one hooked up to the catapult, ran up to full power, and launched off the bow. One after another, they climbed into the sky and turned toward their assigned sectors. The pilots had three objectives. First, intercept and destroy any incoming missiles that could be targeting the carrier group. Second, Establish air superiority along the corridor that the Marines would use to reach Allied bases, ensuring safe passage for the transport aircraft. Third, strike enemy military installations, radar sites, missile launchers, command posts, anything that posed a threat to coalition forces in the area. On the carrier deck, the Marines moved toward the V-22 Ospreys parked on the aft section. They filed up the rear ramps in single columns, took their seats, and strapped in. The Ospreys started their engines, rotors spinning up in helicopter mode. One by one, they lifted off the deck, rotors tilting forward as they gained speed, and headed out toward the Allied bases where the Marines would be stationed. A second group of Marines boarded a Marine transport helicopter through the side door. Full combat loads, rifles, body armor, packs, ammunition. The helicopter lifted off and followed the same route as the Ospreys, carrying its Marines to the same operational area. Meanwhile on the ship, the defensive preparations continued. Every machine gun position was rechecked. Anti-aircraft missile crews confirmed their systems were tracking and ready to fire. Attack helicopters on the flight deck were being armed with door-mounted machine guns and loaded with ammunition for escort duty. These helicopters would fly alongside the Ospreys and transport helicopters carrying the Marines, providing armed escort for the entire flight. If Iranian drones appeared along the route, the helicopter gunners would engage and shoot them down before they could reach the transport aircraft. The carrier group stayed on full alert, every weapon manned, every radar scanning, every aircraft either airborne or ready to launch.